G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Igor Vainshtein from Golf Trak. He's based in Dallas, United States. Thanks for your time today, Igor.
Thanks for having me, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. Karina on your team reached out and thought you'd be a great guest for us.
Yeah, thank you to Karina and to you for having me on, especially while I'm here in Australia, enjoying a little bit of cool weather, change from the 40 degrees every day in Texas at the moment.
Yeah, I heard it's mad. I saw a headline the other day or an image. It was 55 degrees Celsius somewhere in the US. I'm assuming that was probably Texas or Arizona.
Well, Arizona, probably in Nevada. Yeah, it gets pretty brutal, but I actually like the heat. My family doesn't, so.
No.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, last year there were garbage bins melting and the asphalt was bubbling. I saw in Arizona because my ex-brother-in-law to be lives over there, and yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, indeed.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Which one, mate?
Tell us about Golf Trak first, and next question, go back to how you started out.
Yeah, sure. So, Golf Trak is a startup that's 8 years old. So it's an app. It's a mobile app in the golf simulator space. I started it as a bit of a side hustle, while I had a full-time job, and a business that ended up being a full-time business, and it's just been going bootstrapped all the way. Launched about 18 months ago in the App Store, and growing. They've got a team of about 15 people in that business. That really came about as a bit of most of my businesses kind of started as a bit of a sliding doors accident moment. So happy to explore any of those. But Golf Trak is a startup in the golf sim app space, so a little bit different to my other businesses.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. Have you heard of GreenPel?
GreenPel.
It's an app. It's Uber for lawn mowing, basically. I had Brian Clayton on, 4 years ago now. It's a great,
really?
Yeah, I'll send you through his episode. You might be interested in reaching out. I think he's in Texas as well.
Oh, I'd love to know that. Yeah, I mean, that's a great, it's funny you say that. I was actually, I was just in Bali a few days ago, and I was getting a massage, and, as you do in Bali, right? And the lady was just ridiculous. Amazing, caused me so much pain, but really helped with my back. I've been unable to play golf for a couple of weeks because of my back injury. But and she was saying, she asked me, what am I doing there? I said, look, I have a team. I do app development, and she's like, oh, there should be an app like Uber for massage. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a few of those. And anyway, funny enough, in Bali there isn't one. So it's interesting. I love those ideas. The marketplace apps. Yeah. They're very low barrier to entry, but very difficult to scale.
Yeah. No, well, Brian's actually based in Nashville. I'll connect you both up. You might want to catch up. But
absolutely, I haven't been to Nashville yet. I've been wanting to go for a long time. It's a great place.
It looks like when I recorded this 4 years ago, they were doing over 20 million from memory.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And on golf, have you played any of the world-class golf courses here in Tasmania? Barnbougle, Lost Farm, Ocean Dunes, Cape Wickham?
I haven't. I've done the King Island a number of years ago, and that was just the most amazing trip.
Yep.
Absolutely loved that. I haven't done Lost Farm or Barnbougle, but I think next year on the cards. Absolutely.
I'll send you through my Tasmania documents, got all that and where to stay and eat and sleep, etc. But Cape Wickham on King Island has just taken over Barnbougle as the number one golf course in Australia, which has held the mantle since it opened 20 years ago, Barnbougle. So
didn't Cape Wickham even get one of the top spots in the world now?
Yeah, it is. Barnbougle's been in the top 50 since it opened. Yeah. Fantastic. And so you started the business 8 years ago? In
Golf Trak, 2016 is when it kind of started. Yeah.
And how old were you then?
20. I have to go back. I turned 44 last week.
So I was enough coffee. 36.
36. That's it. No, but I started my first business when I was 17. So it's been an ongoing journey.
Maybe take us through that journey. How you started out.
Well, I was a tech guy. I've always been a tech super geek. Used to have really fat glasses. Had laser surgery back in 2003 to fix that, but the geekiness stayed. I basically I started I did work experience. It's a funny story, right? Again, accidental kind of sliding doors moment. I did work experience while I was still at school. So I went to Sydney Boys High over in Sydney, and I went to Narrabri, New South Wales, at the CSIRO Radio Telescope Observatory there for work experience to think because I thought I wanted to be an astrophysicist. I realized it's really boring. But they had like this thing called the internet there back in like '95, and I used the internet for the first time, and I'm like, this is so cool. So by '97, I was 17. I was just finished school, moved back to Melbourne with my folks. I was going to Melbourne Uni to do an info systems course, a bachelor, and I just started talking to people about the internet websites, and everyone wanted a website. So all these small businesses around just where I lived, and I kind of had my I was programming, playing around for a while, so I started building websites for like a couple $100 as a kid. And in fact, I built a website with a rotating logo, which blew the mind of the CEO and founder of a company which is now one of the biggest healthcare companies in Australia, called Sonic Healthcare. Sonic Healthcare.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, it's huge, right. So I built the very first website for them, I think for like $500, because my dad worked there, and he introduced me to Colin Goldschmidt, who's the chairman. And I remember I built this rotating GIF logo, and I blew people's minds. So that's my claim to fame. But I wasn't wanting to be in business. So I did my first business while I was at uni, and building websites, doing sort of software development. I was also working at a .com startup called wishlist.com.au, which I think was the second e-commerce startup in Australia. I was
after D-Store, was it?
After D-Store, yeah. David Gold from D-Store, I know him.
I was in that space. I launched late '99 an e-tailer called perfectgifts.com.au, so I know them.
Oh my God, what a small world! I remember Perfect Gifts because I was, I remember because I was at Wishlist, I think '97, '98. What a small world, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, well, you know what happened to those businesses, which is not that much. But I was there. I was there from employee number 6 to 120 in a year.
Wow.
So that was an amazing experience. I mean, that was like in the movies, sleeping under your desk, eating pizza 24 hours a day, and drinking Coke to stay awake. And so that but then I went to corporate. I worked for SAP, and then I was the youngest senior consultant in the world at 22 out of all SAP employees. And they told me, yeah, you're gonna have to stay there for about 10 years because you're too young, which didn't really go down with me that well. So I left and started my own company.
Funnily enough, sorry, I was a SAP security controls consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Wow, we are very similar.
Yeah, so I was in the basically in the change management part of the business, training, like managing, the implementations. Everyone used to hate SAP. In fact, I wrote a white paper, which was my main marketing collateral when I had my own company called Adept Connections back then, which was called "How to Go from Loathing to Loving SAP in 90 Days."
Love
it. Got me into a lot of doors, opened a lot of conversations. That was great. And I grew that I started that out of desperation because I kind of lost all my money. I had property. I bought, built up a portfolio, had a great job, traveling all through Asia, working, but miserable, going through extreme depression. Hated my company, hated my employees. I had 21. I gave 40% of the business to this couple that used to work for me. They screwed me over. They did a backdoor contract with Rio Tinto. Right. I had I think 13 consultants there, and they basically moved it to their personal company because they had a buddy who worked in procurement. So it destroyed my business because they thought I wasn't doing much. They said, "You're having coffee all day." I'm like, "Yeah, it's called sales." We went, we went from 2 employees to 21 in 2 years. Like, what do you think? That happened, by accident. But I was young. I was 25. Had no idea. Had a $4.5 million turnover business that just disappeared overnight. We talked about mistakes, right? There's so many. I kind of lose my trail of thought as I go down some of these rabbit holes. So just pull me out when you need to. But I started that business, because before I got to $4.5 million, started the business because I left the job because I was going through pretty extreme depression. And I invested in this company with 3 complete idiots, and I was the 4th idiot in marketing space. Put all this, money, several hundred thousand, 300,000 or something of my own money, and I funded it. It blew up in 3 or 4 months. Lost everything. Lost all my properties, except 1 or 2 maybe. And kind of out of desperation, went back to the tech world and started this consulting company by accident. with a client in Brisbane, and that grew from me working for them. In 4 years, I had 21 employees. Like I said, doing about 400,000 to 500,000 a month in revenue, and then that blew up in January 1, 2007. In fact, easy date to remember.
Yep.
So yeah, and then did other things. I had a car rental business that I was involved in, and then I started in golf in 2010, 2011. I was consulting at Australia Post actually, and my friend Damon Rashid, who was a good golfer, he's got some great businesses as well. You should have him on your podcast. He's based in Melbourne, and I was not into golf, and he just said, "Listen, why don't you come try a few lessons?" And I did, and I got hooked. And then we ended up, so I was getting lessons at this company called Golf Trak Australia in Richmond, which is like an indoor center. Had 6 simulator bays, some coaching. Started getting lessons. It was going out of business. It was a really bad location. And then Damon and I bought the business, and with one of the managers, Sam, there, and moved it to downtown Melbourne, Exhibition Street, in the building where I was consulting for Australia Post, because there was a space, 650 square meters or 6,500 square feet for my American friends. That was for lease. Took out the lease, moved it there, spent a fortune moving it there, and did that, and then pivoted a few more times to end up with 24/7 Golf, which I built, scaled, expanded to US, Europe, and then sold to one of the biggest companies in America, golf companies.
Wow.
The rest is history, as they say. So
yep.
Open to go down any rabbit hole you choose.
So how many team members did you get that business to? How big was it?
So 24/7, I had about 4 in Melbourne. I had 5 or 6 in the US, and I had like a JV partner with 3 or 4 in Luxembourg. So for me, probably 10 to 11 people, really.
Wow, fantastic. And what year did you sell it?
I sold it 18 months ago, so January 23.
Yep. All right. And then the next focus was Golf Trak after that?
It was. So I do have an earnout. I have 3 golden handcuffs with the company that acquired me. So about a year and a bit through that, building the business. And, we, since taking over, and that, when we did the deal, and I spoke about it on another podcast, actually, just about the structure, because I was such a young company, kind of growing fast, but still very young, very small, especially for this was Golf Trak, who acquired me. They're owned by a public company listed in Japan called GDO, and it was such an interesting deal to deal with because they're public, so you have to disclose certain acquisitions at certain size, etc. And we wanted to kind of keep it a little bit under the radar, and we didn't need to disclose it, but because how we structured it, it was a great deal because we both took on a lot of risk. We shared the risk, right? So I believed in my product, and I thought that we could do together amazing things and scale really well. And they believed in it, but they didn't want to put all this money up front and then potentially, like a traditional sale. We basically X times EBITDA, and then whatever. And we've grown. I've just done the sums. We've grown something like 400 to 500% in a year.
Wow.
With their backing and their scalability and TV ads and all the big box retail connections. So, and I think that'll be, triple digit growth in the second year as well, and potentially the third. So it's been an amazing experience. It just shows that you really, you need cash to truly scale. One or another, you just need cash.
Absolutely. Once you've got the model right, you've tested it, the fundamentals, just tip more money into marketing and build the team out as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So Golf Trak's not part of 24/7, is it?
No, it was a separate company, and because it was still very early, we didn't come to an agreement on that company, and so I was, we had a contract where I'm allowed to build this business while having a full-time job, scaling the business that I sold, and all those products and stuff like that. So, and it seems to work fine, and mainly because one thing I, again, by accident found out, I tell people I'm I'm like natively lazy. I'm being a little facetious because I love playing golf. So I'm really good at hiring people that do a great job, and I tell them, I'm going to get out of your way. I'll let you do your job so I can go play golf. And actually, works really well because people love to take ownership and take risk. The right people love to do that, and so I have an amazing team on both in both companies, and they both just run with it, and they only come to me when they truly need me to either make a decision or set a vision or things like that. So
it worked well. Any other key numbers to share to illustrate the growth of Golf Trak?
Well, I mean, so first year, Golf Trak is still small, so we've got revenue, but very little. A couple of $1,000 a week or whatever. It's still burning, lots of money. I've put in over $1 million US into it myself. 24/7, grew from a couple of 100,000 maybe in the first year, over 4 years to probably over 4 million.
Yep.
And again, similar sort of 2-3x every year for a few. I mean, COVID you would grew 6 to 7x. That was the best thing that ever happened to us, even though it was absolute torture being here in Melbourne during that period. But it helped the business grow. I wouldn't have been able to expand to the US without it.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I still have imposter syndrome on a daily basis. So some days, when I moved to the US, sold the company within a year of moving, or just over a year of moving to the US, which was my dream. But I always felt, maybe I could have done more, etc. So I go in between. I think I've learned that success to me is, it sounds so cliche. I hate saying it out loud, but it's so true. It's the process. It's the actual, I think success is learning how to enjoy the process and remembering those very painful years, but being here now, being able to enjoy, the fruits of those painful lessons, I think is the success that I actually learned to enjoy the most.
Well, that answers the next question, what success looks like. What's the number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
So you need to, the first thing, you got to have a true problem you're solving, right? So you got to, I think if I had to break it down to one thing, it's very hard to break it down to one thing, but you got to have the voice of the customer in your product, in your marketing, in your execution, in every question you ask yourself when you're being strategic in the business is where's the voice of the customer? What does the customer want? I think without that, you really cannot scale a business. I think you can have some success because you've got something that, maybe a product or service that's good and it satisfies a need or a niche or part of a niche, but to truly scale, to go 10x, 100x, I think you got to know, you got to be very close to what's in the customer's mind, even if they don't know it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And funding, so you've mentioned you've had business partners, you've funded Golf Trak yourself. Any other comments around funding?
Yeah, look, the main bank is, the bank of mum and dad. So is always a pretty good one. It comes with a very high emotional interest, and lots of late penalty fees, again, usually charged in emotional torture. But it's been, I've been a rock bottom many times, and I got a huge thanks to mom and dad for helping me, even when they could barely help me, but it allowed me to kind of climb my way out. Never declare bankruptcy, never defaulted on a debt, and climbed out, and eventually paid everyone back, and there was an amazing feeling. It was probably one of the best feelings in the whole thing, is just being able to just pay everyone back, and kind of be proud of that. That's, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where I'm going with it.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Oh, hell yeah. I love golf. In fact, I don't want to leave golf as an industry. I think it's just, I consider myself so lucky. I cannot even begin to describe how lucky I feel that, I love golf. I'm absolutely addicted. And to have a business or multiple businesses in that space, and kind of to enjoy being able to play amazing golf courses all over the world, meet people on the golf course, off the golf course, in the golf industry, it's amazing. It's like I have a friend who's loves motorsport, and he was saying, if I could have a business in Formula One, I would be the happiest man alive. So I feel like that with golf. Yeah.
Well, mate, you've definitely got to come to Tasmania, because late this year, another world-class golf course opens near the airport. Matthew Goggin, who's Tasmania's top PGA ex-professional now, but He's opening that. Apparently, another mate of mine who's was the founder of Barnbougle has said it's even better than the one he built. So
Wow.
you definitely have to get down here.
Okay, it's a date.
Yeah. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
There are so many. There are so many. I think the main point I'll say is this, right? You to be in business, to be especially scaling and all that, you got to be prepared to just endure ridiculous amounts of pain and stress. The most stressful points are running out of money, repeatedly, many times, and then probably the worst thing is, and I was guilty of this, and so I would tell your audience to avoid this if you can, is kind of doubling down. I realized, actually recently on Christmas, I was on a cruise ship with my whole family, and we're having one of those deeply meaningfuls, about the years past, and I realized that I don't gamble, I don't go to the casino. Like, I love poker, Texas Hold'em, but I don't gamble. Just have no interest in it. But I realized I gamble in business.
Yep,
and what I mean by that is, yeah. And but what I mean is, I would borrow money to go and like start another business in the hope that it'll scale double. I'll be able to pay back what I just borrowed plus pay back all the previous debt that I borrowed, and I would lose another $100,000.
Yep.
And I did that several times until I was probably $1 million in debt, and having that on your shoulders and thinking I'm about to lose my house, I'm about to lose my parents' house, I'm about to lose everything. I had a new family, I had a newborn, a wife. It was horrendous. It felt like the ultimate failure. But I had, at the same time, that failure, that being forged in that kind of fire also makes you into a person, unless you fall and die, emotionally, that is, of course. And so it's those moments that I remember most as the most painful, is just not knowing how I'm going to pay, let alone wages, other people's wages. I mean, we had moments where my wife, would be at a supermarket, buying, nappies and, bread and milk, whatever, and had to like pull something out of the shopping cart because there was not enough money on the card to pay for groceries. And that was not that many years ago. I remember it still very clearly. So, don't do as I do.
Yeah.
Do as I say, don't do as I do.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Knowing my numbers. I'm a visionary, textbook visionary. If you know the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
Right. I love that system. It was implemented in 24/7 Golf, and I'm textbook visionary, right? So for me, getting into the detail, knowing my numbers, I know intuitively the numbers really well. I'm actually really good with numbers as such. I'm just not good at knowing the detail stuff that you truly need to know to project cash flow. So my weakest point is to project cash flow base. So EBITDA is one thing, cash flow is different, right? Especially if you're growing a business. Growth can kill you. And knowing that is something I've had to work extremely hard on and get better. And I'm still working very hard on, because I'm still not good at it. And so that's, and it's so critical to a small business that wants to scale. You got to have, cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. So not being good with cash flow is a problem.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
That's a good question. The least is probably it's kind of my own self perpetuation, where I over exaggerate. So I think growth makes you think you're going to have this. So if you go through 100% growth this month, you think, you know what, I'm going to have 100% growth next month. And then you have, 10% growth. And you feel like you've just, you're going 100 miles an hour and you just hit a wall. And so the thing I enjoy least is that cash flow drain that, it just makes you just go like a yo-yo. That's been hard to manage.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Oh, again, so many things. I invented some of my products. I have patents on them. I really enjoyed seeing like customers love the stuff that I just came up with on a table with some Lego blocks. When I was doing development of that. That was really enjoyable. Expanding internationally was, something that I dreamt about for decades probably. And to actually do that was really hard, but so rewarding. It was really, so, we moved the whole family over to Texas, and that was awesome. Really loved that. Dream come true.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think just coming down to sound like a broken record, just cash is king. Just you can't. You just have to manage cash. I think I was pretty good at so many things. I didn't realize how important it is uh, to manage your cash effectively, to allow yourself to grow. Because when I expanded to the US, like, I budgeted 300,000. I'm like, yeah, that'll be enough. Like, it's a lot of money. That'll be enough. It cost me over $1 million.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine, like, all of a sudden you were 700,000, down before you even get going. That was, you just that can kill you. It nearly did kill the business. In that first sort of 6 months, it was really, it just did not plan for all these. Yeah, I heard a really great phrase. Risk is, actually, I'm going to stuff out the paraphrase, but you can think of all the risks, but the true risk is the stuff you don't think of that actually happens.
Yep.
And that's the stuff you got to have a buffer on. A buffer and a buffer, because if you're an optimist like me, you'll think it'll go great, and when it doesn't, you are just, all of a sudden you just run out of money.
Yeah, I think most business owners or entrepreneurs are overly optimistic. That's just in our DNA. It takes a while for those edges to be knocked off. A lot of bumps and failures.
Yeah. School of Hard Knocks does beat it out of you a bit. I think I'm there. I'm halfway there. I'm still an optimist, but I'm like a slightly more cautious optimist.
Yeah. The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
To stay sane, you need an outlet. You need something else. So for me, golf is one of those things. I also think that despite all the stuff that happens to you, you need to have perspective. So, for me, family is my number one core value. Everything I do is to look after my family. It's, again, sounds cliche, but I've seen so many entrepreneurs just go so deep down rabbit holes of their business, of work, that they neglect what's truly important in your life. So I would say habit is, make sure you have an outlet, make sure you find perspective and balance in whatever way that it suits you, but find it.
One or more of these growth pillars standing in the way of you living the lifestyle you've signed up for? People, strategy, marketing, funding, or systems. We have a free ebook filled with actions and templates on each of these growth pillars. Download for free from our website, growasmallbusiness.com.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Right. So there's been, as most small businesses, I hired some friends to do some stuff that some worked out, some it didn't. I've hired family, some it worked out, some it didn't. I think the best is, hire slow. I hired people on like Upwork.com for my app, for example, and I would hire 2 or 3 people to do exactly the same task. Because you risk like a few $100, but it shows you who's really stands out.
Yep.
And I've actually hired amazing people that are full time with me for years now, that even have options in the company, that I found through that method. And if not Upwork, often I've hired people as a consultant first for a few months, see how we get along. Especially more expensive resources. If you're going to pay someone a couple $100,000 a year, I really want to test them out if I can as a consultant. Sometimes that's hard, but if you can do it, that's been a really effective way of testing the waters for both parties.
Yeah, good advice. What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help the growth?
Treat others how you want to be treated. I mean, I have had my moments where in the corporate world got treated complete like shit.
Yeah, some arsehole managers out there, aren't there?
There's some absolute, especially during this post-COVID thing. I'm hearing a lot of people forcing people back to the office and all that. And I'm like, I kind of like, I get it in some ways, but I think, what, if you need to force people, if you need people there for you to look at them over their shoulder, I think you should look at yourself as a manager, as a leader.
Yep, totally.
So for me, it's just treat others. And I've had, I don't want to toot my own horn. I just want to give an example. I've had guys that work for me, many of them actually have said that I've ruined them. They said, how can I go get another boss like this? And even that word just makes me cringe, but it's funny. Like, we just have such a great culture where there's leadership, but there's also, I want to lead by being a servant to them. I like, you come to me when you need me to clear the road for you, but I trust you to do your job. Now, if you don't do your job, we have a conversation. If you can't continue to do your job, we have a much harder conversation. But ultimately, I had a great example, right? I had one guy he worked for me in Australia as a golf coach. And Eric, he moved back to the US and he actually worked at the company that acquired me as a coach. And then he applied for a job with me. I was looking for a salesperson, and he worked for me for 4 months. And I met his whole family. He had a newborn, and it just wasn't working out. And I said to him, I said, "Listen, man, this is a really hard conversation, but like this is just not you. You cannot do this job. I know you really want to do this job, but I said, but you just can't. It's just not you. I think you should go back to coaching. I think you'd do great there because you were such a great coach." And then I ran into him a year and a bit later, like 15 months later, at the PGA show in Orlando. I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm here. I got flown out here by the PGA of America because he was the #1 booked coach in the entire America on the PGA website." And he was like so happy, and his personal brand was glowing, and he was doing phenomenally well. And I said, "I told you back then. I said, I told you that this was going to be the best decision that you cannot." He wasn't prepared to make the decision. He couldn't walk away. So I had to make it for him. But I could see it. And as a leader, you have to sometimes go, I know that there is something better for you out there. And that's the kind of culture, for him to thank me for making that decision was just like a pinnacle of that culture. And that leadership style where you're going to make the hard decision, but you do it out of respect, both for the other person and for yourself and your company and the other people in the company. Because there's a great, I saw a great meme on LinkedIn, that when you start rewarding the wrong people, the right people leave.
Yep.
And I think that's super point.
Hello, audience. How you've handled balance? Sounds like a shit ton of golf.
Yeah, pretty much. That's really, golf and I love listening to podcasts. I'm always like my brain's like a like triple ADHD kind of so I need to be listening to podcasts with one headphone, reading a book with one eye, looking at something, whatever. So I like to multitask, and I love podcasts, business podcasts, but some current affairs, political podcasts, some golf podcasts, and play golf, and the main thing is have adventures with my family. We travel a lot, been to 42 countries. Hope to make it 100 one day.
That's great.
As long as they have a golf course, I'm there.
Yeah. And how much professional development have you invested in yourself? So it sounds like a fair bit with podcasts.
Before that, look, I'll the number one. If I had one thing to leave in terms of that personal development, I would tell your audiences, go watch everything you can find on YouTube from Richard Bandler. He's the inventor of NLP. Tony Robbins licensed it from him, and John Grinder, who invented NLP. I've done 20 plus years of self-development, from Ericksonian hypnosis to, NLP to, relationship stuff, to sale. I've done every sales course. Like I devoured sales courses like it was going out of style. I just feel this constant thirst for knowledge and knowing how to do things better, how other people do things. I try to read every business biography I can get my hands on. Even secondhand bookshops is like a cool place to go find books that don't sell anymore. But learn from other people's mistakes. Read their stories.
Have you read The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack?
Rings a bell. I'm pretty sure I have. I know that name.
I only came across it 2 or 3 years ago, and a couple of guests mentioned it. It's in my top 10 favorites now. I could not believe it. It was written in 1991. I could not believe I had not read that book.
There's a couple that there's a book called Boohoo, which is about boohoo.com. They blew 500 million of venture they raised. I like reading books that tell the disaster stories. I love documentaries like Enron and Bad Blood, about what's called Theranos or whatever, or the vaping documentary.
Yes.
I love those because I feel like you learn. Actually, a mentor once said to me, you don't learn a lot from outliers, from Atlassian and Canva, and they're amazing companies, amazing people, but to learn from them is very hard because they hit an out, they're massive outliers. So I love learning from the disaster stories. I think there's a lot of really good lessons there. But my favorite book is in the past 5 years has probably been Shoe Dog. The guy that started
Nike. On my list.
Amazing because he tells it how it is. At least not through rose-colored glasses. Like he I actually had tears at the end of that book. There's something, he lost his son. I lost a son, and I was just, I was in tears at the end of that book. Just the pain both business and personal just intertwined, but it was so real, and that's what I love about that book, and that's what I try to do also when I talk to people. I try to tell them the not the rose-colored story, the real story.
Yep. There was a early 2000s, just after the dot-com crash. It was like a documentary came out about some entrepreneurs in New York. I think it was called startup.com. Did you ever watch that?
I think I did actually. I remember. Yeah, it was like a very raw documentary. It was a lot of home video and all that. And I remember. Yeah. I think it didn't end quite abruptly because they just went under and
they did. It was an ex-Goldman Sachs banker joined up with his mate. I think he was the nerd, and they're in the government space. I think helping governments, with their people pay their parking fines and shit like that. And I found it really fascinating and scary at the same time. But good lessons in there on business partnerships as well.
Oh yeah. I've had some expensive ones too.
Yes, me too. So you've had mentors and coaches along the way?
I have one right now. Natasha is my amazing mentor. She is an investment banker. She has equity in my company in Golf Trak. I had ones that I've paid before. I have a little problem with some of the paid ones. Some of them were great. Some of them were. I'm a really good sales guy. I can convince people, and I convince myself. The problems are not there when they're actually there. And that is the one thing that I'll say that I had a problem with some mentors who would buy into my bullshit instead of call me out of my bullshit. And that cost me millions of dollars. Yeah. And so I think mentors are a must. It's an absolute must. But you need to have people that will call out your bullshit.
Yep. Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I don't have an official board. I have advisors.
Yep. Igor, you're one of the few I've had on that's exited a business. Any headline advice there for the audience considering exiting one day?
I think an exit, what I thought would be an exit, how I thought it would be, was completely different to how it actually ended up being. So one thing I would say is talk to as many people as you can who have exited. So I had I'm part of an entrepreneurs organization, EO. So I had people in my forum who've had a similar exit to what I was facing. It was a great experience sharing from them that allowed me to go back to Golf Trak with a proposal. Their initial proposal was not what I wanted to do, but I came back to them with something that was more of a shared risk that they obviously saw benefit in. So I think you got to be flexible. Unless you're building a business that is quite traditional, where it's basically EBITDA times whatever, and minus assets, plus assets, whatever, right? But if you're scaling a business, you're never going to get that pure EBITDA multiple sale. And I've never really been in a traditional business. I've always tried to scale and all that, and failed many times, but obviously succeeded. So if you're in a scaling business, I would say be flexible. And the other thing is, some people think that once they sell, that's like the end of the road, and that's not true. First of all, if you build one business and scale it, you probably have more ideas in you, and besides the fact that there's usually golden handcuffs, trust yourself that you will find other ideas. And I think one of my mentors, who's an unofficial mentor, but is a friend, he's sold 2 companies for over $400 million. Amazing guy in Nevada, and he said to me that your perspective and the perspective of others about you will change completely once you're an entrepreneur who's exited to a public company, especially.
Yep.
And that's been true. It's been an amazing experience. It's been an amazing door opener. And so I would recommend to people to exit if you have an opportunity, structure it the right way, and trust yourself that you will build and scale another business.
Have you listened to any of John Warrillow's podcasts or his 3 books, Built to Sell, The Automatic Customer, and The Art of Selling Your Business?
I think I remember The Art of Selling Your Business, but not the other 2. I might have to go back to those.
I'll send them through to you. But his podcast is awesome. I'll send that through to you as well. We've had John on our cast a couple of times. Great episodes. I'll send those through to you.
I'd love to. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right,
I need those for my 17 or 20-hour journey back to Dallas. So
that's right. A direct flight from Sydney, I assume?
No, we're flying through LAX this time. So Melbourne, LAX, and then Dallas.
I've done that. Second longest leg in the world.
I've done the Dallas direct to Melbourne. That's 17 and a half hours. Depends which part of the plane you fly in.
Yeah, that's right. Well, All right, Igor, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Finding cash. That's always the hardest.
Favorite business book? Shoe Dog?
Shoe Dog, absolutely Shoe Dog. Yeah.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
God, there's like 100. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Oh God, I'm struggling to find like one in particular, but I just anyone you can find. I mean, Tim Ferriss is great. Yeah, there's plenty more. But to me, like if you truly want to scale, like get your head into EOS. Yep. Learn it. I mean, eMyth was a great book and a whole system. I think EOS is awesome and it's helped me scale. So I would recommend that. Anything you can find on EOS, if you don't know it, is a must.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
So besides EOS, so if you're over $1 million revenue, go join Entrepreneurs Organization. I think we all feel a bit lonely at the top, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I think having a great network of people around you that can share their experiences is an absolute must. And so as a tool, I would say it's the people around you that will help you the most to I think, achieve your dreams. So go and find those people.
Yeah. Great advice. Finally, my favorite question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out, 27 years ago now?
Besides slapping myself silly, just be prepared for the pain. When I started out, I still say this to my wife especially, I've always thought, I wasn't put on this earth for a 9 to 5, kind of consider myself quite unemployable. And I knew one day I would get there. Like I always had, my parents helped instill that belief in myself. I just didn't know when. And I still don't know when. And so I would say to myself that just learn to find, it's like going to gym, like that pain you feel, like just learn to find a way to enjoy that pain because it's getting you closer to where you want to be. You just don't know where you're going to get there. But if you can find happiness in that process, as cliche as it sounds, you will not care when you get there because not much will actually change. And that's kind of what I found in a weird way. It's like things change, but not as much as I thought they would.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today, Igor. I really enjoyed our chat. And
thanks for having me.
Also being so open with the ups as well as the downs. And congratulations to you on the exit and the growth of several businesses. And really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Troy. Really great to be here and hope it helps some people.
And I'll see you down here for a round of golf and a beer.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. Don't tease me.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.